Nathan Sterling stood in his corner office on the 42nd floor, staring at the city's skyline without really seeing it. At 32 years old, he had built Sterling Hotel Group into a billion-dollar empire. Yet he felt powerless against the one person who truly controlled his life, his grandmother, Victoria Sterling. The morning had started like any other, until Victoria summoned him to the family estate. What followed was an announcement that shook Nathan to his core. She had arranged his marriage to Clarissa Montgomery, daughter of Montgomery Enterprises. The wedding date was already set for 6 months from now. Nathan had tried to reason with her, to explain that arranged marriages belonged in the past. But Victoria was unmoved. She reminded him that the Sterling fortune came with responsibilities, and securing the family legacy through strategic alliances was his duty. A chance encounter 3 days later, Nathan found himself walking down a quiet street in the Arts District, desperately needing space to think. He had avoided Clarissa's calls and ignored his grandmother's messages. The pressure was building, and he needed a solution. That was when he noticed the small flower shop tucked between a vintage bookstore and a coffee house. The window display caught his attention with its creative arrangement of wildflowers and succulents. A sign in the window read, "Bloom and blossom, where every flower tells a story." Nathan entered the shop, a bell chiming softly above the door. The space was small, but filled with vibrant colors and the sweet scent of fresh flowers. Behind the counter stood a young woman with dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her hands carefully arranging white roses in a crystal vase. She looked up, and Nathan felt something unexpected. Her face was makeup-free, revealing natural beauty that no amount of designer cosmetics could enhance. Her eyes were warm brown, intelligent, and kind, with a spark of determination that intrigued him. Ruby's world, Ruby Chen, wiped her hands on her apron and smiled at the well-dressed man who had just entered her shop. She recognized expensive tailoring when she saw it, and this customer definitely belonged to a different world than her small business. "Welcome to Bloom and Blossom," she said warmly. "How can I help you today?" Nathan approached the counter, suddenly uncertain. He had come in without a real reason, just seeking a moment of peace. "I need an arrangement," he said, improvising quickly. "Something for a business meeting tomorrow." Ruby nodded and began asking questions about the occasion, the recipient's preferences, and the message he wanted to convey. Nathan found himself relaxed by her genuine interest and expertise. She spoke about flowers the way he spoke about architecture and design, the passion and deep knowledge. As she worked, creating a stunning arrangement of orchids and greenery, they talked. Ruby shared how she had opened the shop 2 years ago after her parents retired and moved back to Taiwan. She had studied horticulture and business, pouring her savings into this dream. "Business is challenging," she admitted, carefully placing each stem. "Rent in this area keeps increasing, and big flower delivery services are taking customers. But I love what I do, and my clients appreciate the personal touch." Nathan listened, fascinated by her authenticity. In his world, everyone had an agenda, every conversation a hidden motive. But Ruby seemed genuinely content with her simple life. Despite the struggles, the proposals Ruby wrapped the finished arrangement. Nathan made a decision that would change both their lives. The idea had formed in his mind during their conversation, crazy but potentially perfect. "Ruby," he said carefully, "can I ask you something unusual?" She looked up, curious but cautious. "That depends on how unusual we're talking about." Nathan took a breath. "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for the next few months. It would involve attending some social events, meeting my family, and convincing them we're in a serious relationship. In return, I would pay you enough to cover your shop's expenses for the entire year." Ruby stared at him, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" Nathan quickly explained his situation, about Victoria's arranged marriage plan and his desperate need for a solution. He spoke honestly about his family's expectations and his desire to make his own choices. As he talked, Ruby saw the vulnerability beneath his polished exterior. "Why me?" she asked when he finished. "You could hire an actress or ask someone from your social circle, 'cause you're real," Nathan said simply. "My grandmother is sharp. She would see through an actress immediately. But you have genuine warmth and intelligence. Plus, You need help with your business, and I need help escaping an arranged marriage. We could help each other." The agreement Ruby should have said no immediately. The whole idea was absurd, like something from a romantic movie. Yet she thought about the overdue rent notice hidden in her desk drawer, the loan payment coming due, and the struggling flower shop that meant everything to her. How would this work exactly? She heard herself asking. Nathan's eyes lit with hope. "We would date publicly for about 4 months, attend family dinners, social events, and be seen together regularly. My grandmother needs to believe we're genuinely in love. After enough time passes, we can stage a believable breakup. And I'll have proven that I'm willing to fight for love, not just accept an arranged marriage. And you would pay me how much?" Nathan named a figure that made Ruby's heart skip. It was more than her shop's annual revenue. With that money, she could pay off debts, update equipment, and secure her business for years. "I would need this in writing," Ruby said slowly. "A proper contract stating the terms, the duration, and the payment schedule." Of course, Nathan agreed immediately. "My lawyer can draft something by tomorrow. Everything will be professional and clear." Ruby looked around her small shop, at the flowers she had arranged with such care, at the dreams she had built with her own hands. This felt wrong on so many levels, yet the practical part of her brain recognized the opportunity. "Okay," she finally said. "I'll do it. But we need ground rules. No real feelings, complete honesty with each other, and a clean exit when this is over." Nathan extended his hand. "Deal." As their hands met in a firm handshake, neither noticed the way their touch lingered slightly longer than necessary. Neither acknowledged the small spark of connection that passed between them. They were entering a business arrangement, nothing more. The first step 2 days later, Ruby found herself sitting in Nathan's lawyer's office, reviewing the most unusual contract she had ever seen. Every detail was outlined. Public appearances, social media guidelines, family interactions, and the payment structure. It was thorough, professional, and completely surreal. She signed her name at the bottom, watching Nathan do the same. They were officially in a fake relationship. "So, when does this start?" Ruby asked as they left the lawyer's office. Nathan checked his phone. "Tonight, actually. There's a charity gala for children's hospitals. My grandmother will be there, along with Clarissa and her family. It's the perfect opportunity to introduce you." Ruby felt panic rising. "Tonight." "Nathan, I don't have anything appropriate to wear to a gala." Nathan smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen from him. "Already handled. I've arranged for a stylist to meet you at your apartment in 2 hours. Everything you need will be provided." As Ruby rode home in the car Nathan had sent for her, she wondered what she had gotten herself into. In a few hours, she would enter a world of wealth and privilege. Pretending to be in love with a man she barely knew, she had no idea that pretending would soon become the easiest part, and that walking away would prove impossible. Ruby stood before the full-length mirror in her apartment, barely recognizing herself. The stylist had transformed her into someone who belonged at a high-society gala. The emerald green dress hugged her figure perfectly, flowing to the floor in elegant waves. Her hair was styled in soft curls that cascaded over one shoulder, and subtle makeup enhanced her natural features. Jessica Park, her best friend since college, sat on the bed with her mouth open. "Ruby, you look like royalty. I still cannot believe you agreed to this fake dating thing." "I need the money, Jess," Ruby reminded her, slipping on the diamond earrings Nathan had sent over. They were probably worth more than her entire shop. "My business is drowning, and this is my lifeline." "Just be careful," Jessica warned. "Rich guys like Nathan Sterling don't live in the same world as us. This arrangement might seem simple now, but feelings have a way of complicating things." Ruby laughed, though it sounded forced even to her own ears. "Trust me, there will be no feelings. This is purely business." The doorbell rang, and Ruby's heart jumped. Nathan had arrived to pick her up. When she opened the door, she found him standing in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo that made him look like he had stepped out of a magazine cover. Nathan's breath caught when he saw her. "Ruby, you look stunning. You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach, as they drove to the gala in Nathan's luxury car. He briefed her on the people she would meet. His grandmother, Victoria, would be watching them carefully, looking for any sign that their relationship was fake. Clarissa Montgomery would likely be hostile. The key was to appear comfortable together, like a couple who had been dating for months. "Just follow my lead," Nathan said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "And remember, we're supposed to be in love." Meeting high society, the ballroom was breathtaking. With crystal chandeliers casting warm light over hundreds of guests in designer gowns and expensive suits, Ruby felt overwhelmed by the sheer display of wealth around her. Each table probably cost more than she made in a month. Nathan's hand settled on the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd. The gesture felt protective and surprisingly natural. Several people stopped to greet Nathan, their eyes curious as they studied Ruby. "Nathan, darling." A commanding voice cut through the chatter. Victoria Sterling approached them, a tall woman in her 70s, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. "I heard rumors you were bringing someone tonight." "Grandmother, I'd like you to meet Ruby Chen," Nathan said, his voice warm as he pulled Ruby closer. "Ruby, this is my grandmother, Victoria Sterling." Ruby extended her hand, remembering to smile naturally. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Sterling. Nathan speaks of you often." Victoria's handshake was firm as she studied Ruby with an intensity that made her feel transparent. "Chen, is it? And what do you do, my dear?" "I own a flower shop in the Arts District," Ruby answered honestly. "Bloom and blossom. I specialize in custom arrangements and sustainable floristry." Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or calculation. How refreshing. Most young women, Nathan knows, only specialize in spending their father's money. Before Ruby could respond, another woman appeared at Victoria's side. Clarissa Montgomery was beautiful in an icy way. Platinum blonde hair and a designer dress that probably cost more than Ruby's car. Her smile was sharp as a knife. "Nathan, what a surprise to see you here," Clarissa said, ignoring Ruby completely. "I saved you a seat at our table. I'm afraid I'll be sitting with Ruby tonight," Nathan replied smoothly, his arm tightening around Ruby's waist. "Clarissa Montgomery, meet Ruby Chen, my girlfriend." The word girlfriend hung in the air. Clarissa's eyes narrowed as she finally looked at Ruby, assessing and dismissing her in one glance. "How nice," Clarissa said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "I hope you enjoy the evening." As Clarissa walked away, Ruby released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. That was intense. Nathan leaned down to whisper in her ear, "You did perfectly." "My grandmother is intrigued, and Clarissa is threatened." Exactly what we needed. Unexpected Connections dinner passed in a blur of conversations and carefully maintained appearances. Ruby found herself relaxing as the evening progressed. Nathan was attentive without being overbearing, making her laugh with quiet observations about the other guests. He had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard. When the dancing began, Nathan led her to the floor. Ruby had worried about this part, but Nathan was an excellent dancer. Guiding her smoothly through the waltz. "You're good at this," she said. Looking up at him, "Mandatory lessons as a child," Nathan admitted. "I hated every minute of them at the time. And now." Nathan's eyes met hers, and something in his expression made her heart skip. "Now I'm grateful. This is the best part of my evening." Ruby knew he was acting for the watching crowd, but his words still sent warmth through her chest. She reminded herself this was pretend, just part of the arrangement as they danced. Nathan asked about her childhood, her dreams, and her love for flowers. Ruby found herself sharing stories she rarely told anyone, about helping her grandmother in her garden as a child, learning the language of flowers, and dreaming of creating beauty in the world. "Every flower has meaning," she explained. "Red roses for love, yellow for friendship, white for new beginnings. I like helping people express feelings they cannot put into words." Nathan listened with genuine interest, not the polite attention people usually gave when discussing topics they considered trivial. "That's beautiful," he said. "You create emotional connections through nature. It's not so different from what I do with hotel design. Creating spaces where people feel something." Ruby hadn't expected this connection. This realization that despite their different worlds, They understood each other's passion for creating meaningful experiences. A glimpse behind the mask, the gala, ended near midnight, and Nathan drove Ruby home through quiet city streets. The evening had been exhausting but successful. Victoria seemed convinced, and the social media photos were already circulating online with captions speculating about Nathan Sterling's mystery girlfriend. "Thank you for tonight," Nathan said as they pulled up to Ruby's apartment building. "I know this world isn't comfortable for you, but you handled everything beautifully." "It wasn't as terrible as I expected," Ruby admitted. "Your grandmother is intimidating, but I think she might have liked me. Or at least didn't hate me immediately." Nathan laughed, a real laugh that transformed his usually serious face. "With Victoria, that's the same thing." He walked her to her door, and they stood in the hallway under the flickering, fluorescent light, a stark contrast to the ballroom's elegance. "Nathan, can I ask you something?" Ruby said. "Earlier, when we were dancing, you seemed genuinely interested in my stories about flowers. Was that part of the act?" Nathan was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "No," he finally said. "That was real. I've attended hundreds of events like tonight, had thousands of superficial conversations. But talking with you felt different. You're passionate about what you do, and that passion is infectious." Ruby felt her cheeks warm. "You're passionate too. The way you talked about architectural design and creating guest experiences, I could hear it in your voice." They stood closer now, the space between them charged with something neither wanted to acknowledge. This was supposed to be fake, simple, transactional, but the connection growing between them felt anything but simple. "I should go inside," Ruby said softly. "Not moving." "You should," Nathan agreed. Also not moving. Finally, Ruby stepped back, breaking the moment. "Same time next week for the museum benefit?" "I'll pick you up at 7, Nathan confirmed. "Sleep well, Ruby." As Ruby entered her apartment, Jessica was waiting up, eager for details. But Ruby found herself reluctant to share everything, especially the confusing feelings stirring in her chest. Small moments, big changes. Over the following weeks, Nathan and Ruby fell into a routine. Public dates twice a week, carefully documented on social media. Dinners at expensive restaurants where they were sure to be seen. Weekend brunches at popular spots in Beverly Hills. But something unexpected happened between the staged appearances. They began spending time together when no one was watching. Nathan started visiting Ruby's flower shop, initially claiming he needed arrangements for hotel lobbies. But he would linger, watching her work, asking about different flowers and their meanings. He seemed fascinated by her creative process, the way she could take individual stems and create something cohesive and beautiful. Ruby, in turn, found herself genuinely curious about Nathan's world. He took her to construction sites where his company was building new hotels, explaining his vision for spaces that felt both luxurious and welcoming. She saw the artist beneath the businessman, someone who cared deeply about creating beauty and comfort for others. One afternoon, Nathan arrived at the flower shop looking exhausted. A major deal had fallen through, and he needed space from his office. Ruby made him tea and let him sit in the back room while she worked, the comfortable silence speaking volumes about their growing friendship. "This place is peaceful," Nathan said, watching Ruby arrange sunflowers. "Everything in my world is loud and demanding. But here, it's just you and the flowers and the quiet." "You're welcome any time," Ruby said, meaning it completely. These moments scared Ruby because they felt too real, too comfortable. She was supposed to be acting, maintaining professional distance. Instead, she found herself looking forward to Nathan's visits. Missing him when he was busy with work, Jessica noticed the change immediately. "You're falling for him," she said one night over wine. "I'm not," Ruby protested weakly. "Ruby, you light up when you talk about him. And from what I've seen on your Instagram, he looks at you like you hung the moon." Ruby wanted to deny it, but the truth was becoming harder to ignore. Somewhere between the fake dates and genuine conversations, her feelings had shifted from pretend to painfully real. The question was, did Nathan feel the same way, or was he still just following the contract? 3 months into their arrangement, Ruby realized she was in trouble. What started as a business deal had transformed into something she could no longer control. She was in love with Nathan Sterling, and the truth terrified her. The realization hit during a quiet Sunday morning when Nathan appeared at her door with coffee and pastries, claiming he was in the neighborhood. They spent hours on her tiny balcony, talking about everything and nothing, laughing at silly jokes, comfortable in a way that had nothing to do with their contract. When Nathan left that afternoon, Ruby sat alone in her apartment, facing the truth she had been avoiding. For months would end in 3 weeks. Their agreement would conclude, Nathan would return to his world, and she would be left with a broken heart and memories of pretending. She needed to protect herself before it was too late. That evening, Ruby sent Nathan a message suggesting they reduce their public appearances and focus only on essential events. She needed distance, space to remember this was fake before her heart forgot completely. Nathan's response came immediately. Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? Everything is fine, Ruby typed back, the lie burning her fingers. Just busy with the shop. But nothing was fine, and Nathan knew it. Clarissa's revenge the following week. Ruby arrived at the shop to find Clarissa Montgomery waiting outside, her expression cold and calculating. Ruby's stomach dropped. This could not be good. We need to talk, Clarissa said, her voice sharp. Privately, Ruby unlocked the shop, her hands trembling slightly. Clarissa entered like she owned the place, her designer heels clicking against the worn wooden floor. I know about your little arrangement with Nathan, Clarissa announced without preamble. The contract, the payment, all of it. My father's investigator found everything. Ruby felt the blood drain from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, Clarissa scoffed. Don't insult my intelligence. Nathan hired you to pretend to be his girlfriend to avoid marrying me. It's actually quite pathetic. If you know, then what do you want? Ruby asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Clarissa smiled, a predator cornering prey. I want you to end this charade immediately. Tell Nathan it's over, walk away, and never contact him again. If you do, I'll keep quiet about the contract. If you refuse, I'll expose everything to Victoria and the media. Imagine the scandal when people learn Nathan Sterling paid a struggling flower shop owner to pose as his girlfriend. Ruby's mind raced. The humiliation would destroy Nathan's reputation. Victoria would never forgive him. And Ruby herself would become a laughingstock, the poor girl who sold herself for money. Why do you want to marry Nathan so badly? Ruby heard herself ask. He doesn't love you. Love. Clarissa laughed harshly. Love is for fairy tales. Nathan and I come from the same world. We understand duty and legacy. You're just a temporary distraction, a novelty he'll tire of eventually. I'm giving you a chance to leave with dignity. After Clarissa left, Ruby sat among her flowers, tears streaming down her face. She had 2 choices: expose the truth and destroy Nathan, or walk away and protect him. The answer was obvious. She loved him too much to let him suffer because of her. The goodbye that evening. Ruby met Nathan at their favorite quiet restaurant, the small Italian place where they had shared countless meals over the past months. Nathan knew immediately something was wrong. Ruby, what's going on? You've been distant all week. Ruby forced herself to meet his eyes, memorizing every detail of his face. I think we should end our arrangement early. You've been seen with me enough. Victoria believes we're together. The contract's purpose is fulfilled. Nathan's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. That's not what this is about. Something happened. Tell me. Nothing happened, Ruby lied. I just think it's time. Our 4 months are almost up anyway. Ruby, look at me. Nathan reached across the table, taking her hand. His touch made everything harder. Something changed between us. I know you feel it too. This stopped being fake weeks ago. Ruby pulled her hand back, her heart breaking. You're wrong. This was always just business. I needed money. You needed a fake girlfriend. Now it's done. I don't believe you, Nathan said firmly. Tell me the real reason you're running. Ruby stood, knowing if she stayed another moment, she would crumble and tell him everything. Goodbye, Nathan. Thank you for everything. The final payment can go to my business account as agreed. She walked out before he could respond, before her resolve shattered completely. Outside, she leaned against the building. Sobbing quietly in the darkness, she had saved Nathan from scandal. But the cost was her own heart. Nathan's decision. Nathan sat in his office the next morning, staring at his phone. Ruby wasn't answering his calls or messages. Something was terribly wrong, and he intended to find out what. His assistant knocked hesitantly. "Mr. Sterling, your grandmother is here to see you." Victoria entered with her usual commanding presence, but her expression was softer than Nathan expected. "I know about the contract," she said without preamble. Nathan's heart sank. "How?" "Clarissa Montgomery's father showed me everything yesterday. He seemed quite pleased to expose your scheme." Victoria sat across from him, studying her grandson carefully. "I assume this was your way of avoiding the arranged marriage?" "Yes," Nathan admitted. There was no point lying now. "I'm sorry, grandmother. I know I disappointed you." To his surprise, Victoria smiled slightly. "Actually, you did exactly what I hoped you would do." Nathan stared at her, confused. "What? Do you know why I pushed so hard for the Clarissa arrangement?" Victoria asked. "I wanted to see if you had the courage to fight for what you truly wanted. Your father never did. He accepted every decision I made for him, married the woman I chose, lived the life I planned. He was miserable. I don't understand." Victoria's eyes grew distant. 60 years ago, I fell in love with a man my parents disapproved of. He was a jazz musician, poor and passionate and completely unsuitable. I let them convince me to marry your grandfather instead, a proper match for a Sterling. I spent my whole life wondering what might have been." Nathan had never heard this story. "Grandmother, I don't want that for you," Victoria continued. "When you hired Ruby, I knew within minutes of meeting her that something was different. The way you looked at her, the way she challenged you, the genuine connection between you. I've been waiting to see if you would choose duty or love. But Clarissa exposed the contract," Nathan said. "Ruby ended things. I've lost her." Victoria stood, her expression determined. "Then stop sitting here feeling sorry for yourself and go fight for her. Show me you're braver than I was." The grand gesture Ruby was arranging lilies when the shop door burst open. Nathan entered, slightly out of breath, his usually perfect appearance disheveled. Behind him, Ruby could see a crowd gathering outside, cameras flashing. "Nathan, what are you doing?" Ruby asked, alarmed. "The press is out there." "I know," Nathan said, moving toward her. "I called them. I'm done hiding, done pretending. Ruby, I know Clarissa threatened you. I know she showed you the contract and made you choose between protecting me or being with me." Ruby's eyes filled with tears. "How did you... ... My grandmother told me everything. Clarissa confessed to her, thinking Victoria would be pleased." Nathan took Ruby's hands, his grip firm and warm. "I don't care about the scandal. I don't care what anyone thinks. I only care about you. Nathan, your reputation, your family, loves you almost as much as I do," Nathan interrupted. "My grandmother gave me her blessing this morning. She told me to fight for real love, not settle for convenient arrangements. Ruby, I love you. Not because of a contract, not because it's convenient, but because you're the most genuine, passionate, beautiful person I've ever known." Ruby's tears spilled over. "I love you too. I tried so hard not to, but I couldn't help it." Nathan pulled her close, and their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home. Outside, cameras flashed and people cheered, but Ruby barely noticed. Nothing mattered except Nathan's arms around her, and the truth finally spoken between them. When they finally pulled apart, Nathan smiled. "Ready to face the press?" "We should probably explain this properly." Ruby laughed through her tears. "Together, always together," Nathan promised. New beginnings. 6 months later, Ruby stood in the Sterling family garden, surrounded by thousands of flowers she had personally arranged. The wedding was small and intimate, exactly what she and Nathan wanted. Jessica stood beside her as maid of honor. Beaming with joy, Victoria sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. She had become Ruby's strongest supporter, often visiting the flower shop to chat and share stories of her youth. As Ruby walked down the aisle toward Nathan, she thought about the journey that brought them here. A fake arrangement born from desperation had transformed into the most real love she had ever known. Nathan's eyes shone with tears as she reached him. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "You're not so bad yourself," Ruby teased, making him laugh. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. When they exchanged vows, Ruby spoke from her heart about flowers and love and unexpected beginnings. Nathan promised to cherish her always, to support her dreams, and to never take their love for granted, as they kissed as husband and wife. Ruby knew that sometimes the best things in life came from taking risks, from saying yes to crazy proposals, and from opening your heart even when it seemed impossible. Their love story had started as fiction, but became the truest thing either of them had ever known, and that was the most beautiful ending of all.